It says they're without excuse. They don't have an excuse. He says in verse 21, because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God. Neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. See, they don't disbelieve in God because of science. They disbelieve in God because they don't want to have to answer. Mankind doesn't like to be told what to do. And this is the same stuff that happened all the way back in the garden. The same lie. In the garden, what did God do? He gave Adam and Eve one test of faith. One test of faith. One law they had to obey. It wasn't a hard law. Well, I wasn't there, maybe it was. But it was one law they had to. There was one tree God said, this is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, don't eat from this tree. Everything else, they had everything, it meant they had it laid out. He said, don't eat from this tree. Why did he say, was there something special about that tree? No, it was just a tree. But why did he say that? Because he wanted them not to forget that he was God and they weren't. Okay? He said, this is my boundary right here. This one, don't eat of this tree. What did Satan tell Eve? He said, God's a liar. That's what he said. Read it, Genesis chapter 3. What are we reading right here? They're taking the truth of God and they're turning it into a lie. It says, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and they changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like the corruptible man, and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. They dragged God down to be inferior to us. They make God a creation of ours instead of us being a creation. They flip it over. Because of that, see, this is where we're at. And this is the way it's been in every society, every major culture, every nation, every empire that has risen and fallen. Their demise begins when they reject the idea of a God that tells them what's right and what's wrong. Listen. Verse 24. Wherefore, God also gave them up. You're going to see that phrase about 3 times in these next few verses. He gave them up to uncleanness through the lusts of their own hearts. Not the lusts of their flesh. You know, the lust of the flesh, we all got to deal with that. You know, I tell folks, our enemies are like the world, the flesh, and the devil. I can shut the world out. The devil I can rebuke, but man, I'm stuck in this flesh. We're not talking about the lust of the flesh. Here he says the lust of what, not the flesh, but the lust of their hearts. See, I can love Jesus, and I got to bring my flesh under. How many people know what I'm talking about? Paul says, I got to die every day. I got to crucify my flesh every day. He loved Jesus. He wasn't talking about the lust of their flesh. He was talking about what they loved. What do you love? Do you love God? Sometimes as much of a failure we can be, we can still love God. But God gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves. It wasn't the lust of the flesh now. It was what they loved. Another place Paul writes about those who did not receive the love of the truth. Do you love the truth tonight? We live in a nation where we have lost the love of the truth. When a nation or a society or a culture begins to hate the truth and love a lie, we see what we're seeing happen in our world right now.